Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. I hope my mic is working properly. So thank you for those who answered the survey on menti.com. Good morning to sa mga nagko-comments. Thank you for just answering also the survey. And yeah, yung mga results ng survey, I'm just looking at it now. Many are or have adjusted to living in home quarantine, and I'm happy that that's your case. There are still some who have not adjusted. It will take time, or maybe you'll never be able to adjust. But again, this is something that we really just have to start living in. No? It's yung mga sinasabi na rin ng mga ibang seminars, the topics, about this new phrase that is already trending right now. Na it's the new normal, and many are still worried about the spread, and I think it's the right emotion or feeling that we should be having right now, that we this is really worrisome, no, until we, of course, there are a lot of opinions, medical experts saying a lot of things about the spread of COVID, but it's something that we have to already accept, live with, maybe, and hope and pray, of course, that we'll already start finding the vaccine and the cure for this virus. And I'm just very happy also that the results for the statement regarding I am proud to be a teacher is relatively very high. No? And despite perhaps this situation that we are in, maybe our pride of being a teacher was lessened because we weren't able to see that sense of fulfillment when we ended abruptly the school year. I think I had that sense also. My sense of fulfillment as a teacher, or my pride, was kind of diminished because the school year ended abruptly. We weren't able to say our proper goodbyes to our students and give them our last words, make them feel loved and cared for now in the last few days of the school year. And I'm sure many of us as teachers felt the same way. No? So already, I'll remove this menti.com. Thank you for those who answered, no? And let me just also take the opportunity to thank the frontliners at this time. I'm sure you also have relatives, your parents are nurses or doctors, you have siblings who also are frontliners, those who work in the grocery. We thank them because they're amidst the virus, they go out every day, expose themselves to some level of danger. So thank you for everyone who are there, no, the doctors, the nurses, everyone. Those who have relatives in PNP, in the armed forces, in the government, thank you to everyone, no, first and foremost. And so let's start. I think we're ready. Yes, it's a blessed Monday. Now I'm also seeing the comments right now. So hope that we have people from Region 1, no, to I don't know where else. Now this is amazing. This whole Facebook Live event is amazing. Now this is my first time to do a seminar live, and to be able to reach out to thousands of people, and this is probably the new normal, no? So let's see. So let's start. Okay, let me just move my slide. So first, we need to get your digital certificate. I was reading the comments also in the other seminars. You are also asking how to get your certificate. So let's go through this step by step. So you're required to watch, of course, this seminar that I'm hosting today, and share today's live learning session, and use your key takeaway with the hashtag #LearnAs1PH in your caption. So the best place or best moment perhaps to do this is in the middle of the seminar, when you find something that strikes you, something that I said, you share it, no, put it as a caption on your post, and then don't forget to add the hashtag #LearnAs1PH. Make sure that there's no space in between the words #LearnAs1PH, because that's how the hashtags work. There are no spaces in between the words. So you add that hashtag at the end of your caption, take a screenshot of your post, and send the screenshot to us, to Vival Group, through private message, so that we can give you your certificate. So I hope everything is clear. At the end of this seminar, I'll also go through this step so that we don't forget that this is what we need to do to get our certificate. So we thank Vival for giving us this opportunity, a free seminar, and be able to get a certificate for this just by watching. No? So I hope that we're able to learn something today in the span of an hour, because I also don't want to extend it too long, because the nature of live events and without any interaction is not ideal when you go beyond an hour, because it can be dragging, we'll lose each other. It's very difficult to also hold the attention span of our viewers. So I hope we're ready. So this slide, I thought of doing the emergency response distance learning because I was pretty much affected by the abrupt ending of the school year. We were all caught off guard. We didn't know what to do, how to respond to this, because the school year has not yet ended, and hindi namin alam ang gagawin. Paano tong online learning na to, no? So these are just a compilation of my notes of experience and of research, and then discussions also with other teachers, other expert in education technology in this situation. So let's give you a background. A home situationer. This is one thing that we missed out when we immediately ended the school year. Now we kept on giving a lot of assessments like it was just a normal school hour. But let's look at the students' situation at home. So internet at home is not stable or maybe not fast enough. Parents are busy also with work from home. Home is not as conducive for learning as with inside the classroom, of course. And students are also doing house chores, because imagine they're there almost awake for 16, 18 hours, and they have to be able to do house chores. They have to start cleaning because the house is dirty, because everybody's there all the time. Instead of cooking just 2 meals a day, everybody's now cooking 3 meals a day, even plus merienda in the morning and merienda in the afternoon. A lot of dishes to wash. And of course, the students also experience anxiety and maybe some level of paranoia from the COVID-19 pandemic. The teacher situation is not different. Internet at home is also not stable or even missing at all. No? There's no internet at all even. And teachers, being adults, of course, most or some are already parents, and they're busy also taking of their young children. When we are in school or at work, we don't worry too much about taking care of our children because they're probably also in their own schools. But now they're there with us. And we're also busy taking part, of course, of the major house chores. We have to start cooking. We have to start planning our meals. And that can be very stressful. The house also is not conducive for sustained work because your children are there bugging you, no? Or even your dogs, your pets, I don't know what. There are a lot of distractions at home. It's very difficult to work. You have to lock yourself up in your room just so that you could do some sustained focused work. And of course, as adults, no, even more so, we experience more anxiety and paranoia from this pandemic more than the teenagers do, no, because our, how do you call that frontal lobe, no, the one that controls our ability to foresee things is more developed, so we are able to think of and imagine all of these situations, crazy worrisome situations in the future that really add to our anxiety in our pandemic, in this time of pandemic. So we have to remember this situation. These are happening at home. And one thing that we have also missed out now when we started going into online learning, when we abruptly ended the school year, is we failed to, or we forgot to do this mental health check. No? And this is what the experts advised. This is from the World Health Organization document dated March 18, 2020. And what did they advise? We have to minimize watching, reading, or listening to news about COVID-19 that causes you to feel anxious or distressed. So iwasan muna natin yung pagbabasa ng mga social media. Sa Twitter, marami dyan, mga rants ng mga tao. So minimize. Maybe not eliminate, but minimize. Also protect yourself and be supportive to others. No? That this way of thanking our frontliners once in a while, that's one way of supporting others. And it keeps the positive spirit, this fighting spirit alive, now this aja. Stress and the feelings associated with it, with the pandemic, are normal and are by no means a reflection that you cannot do your job or that you are weak. So it doesn't, being in the pandemic should not limit or make us appear or make us think that we won't be able to deliver the work that is expected of us. Maybe the delivery or the output may not be as 100% as compared to if we were working in the office or in our cubicles inside the faculty room, but at least we are able to deliver. We can still deliver. We can still work at a certain level. Maintain familiar routines in daily life as much as possible or create new routines, especially if children must stay at home. Provide engaging age appropriate activities for children, including activities for their learning. So, this is already from the World Health Organization. We really cannot also totally eliminate this need of the children to learn, to make this productive, to make this whole lockdown productive. And as parents, maybe especially for us, it's an advantage for us because we are teachers and we are parents at the same time. So we can create some lessons, prepare age appropriate activities for our own children, no, and to keep them more productive, to keep that learning going. Maybe learning more about COVID-19, maybe learning about epidemiology and how this virus spreads in general. No? Let's make this an opportunity to learn more science, for example, or more math about adding the number of the statistics, right? So this is an opportunity also to learn. We're learning more about the virus, but we're also learning about math. We're also learning about science. So I hope that we are all healthy, mentally healthy, because it's very important, no, in being able to learn and be effective learners, basically. And this mental health reminders, not just for us, but these are also reminders that we could also imbibe in our students if we find ourselves in the same situation in the next academic year or next school year. So imagine this, you have your student knowing the situation at home, knowing the mental health concerns that our students are going through and we are going through. In school, they have all of these subjects: math, Filipino, science, English, Araling Panlipunan, Christian living, map, in a span of 8 hours or less in some schools, no? And that's just one after the other. But now at home, doing all those subjects in one day, add to that house chores, personal problems, distractions, and no proper study area. That's 16 home hours. You have to fit them there. It is already very impossible. So these emergency situations of home learning has to also change. We have to put some structure because we cannot anymore bring what we do inside a classroom at home like it's a complete reflection. It cannot be that way anymore. So, what do we do? For example, we already started academic year 2020, 2021, and then suddenly one of our students, one of our staff is positive for COVID. And there's the government mandates that, or DepEd mandates that if a student or an employee is found positive, the school locks down, 14 days quarantine. So again, you already started the school year, and then you suddenly lock down. So what are we going to do? So this is your post-ECQ localized lockdown scenario. We need to go distance learning. So what is distance learning? We need to create this special structure for emergency response in this academic year. So first, we need to, of course, define our terms. Now, what are our terms? Blended learning, asynchronous, synchronous, and distance. There are other terms, but these are probably the four that you just need to remember. So basically, distance learning is blended learning. Blended learning is a mix of online learning tools and classroom pedagogy. So what you do in the classroom, the style that you do in the classroom, you mix it also with online tools or electronic tools, computer, tablets, mobile phones, etc. Asynchronous learning, when you say that everything is in sync, meaning sabay, no, simultaneous. So when you add the prefix a for the English teachers out there, you know this becomes a negative prefix, so it becomes a not. So asynchronous learning is not synchronous, hindi sabay. Learning activities that are done at one space, outside school. So ano yung hindi sabay dun sa asynchronous learning? Ang hindi sabay dito in terms of education or blended learning terminology is that the teacher's lesson is not happening together with the students right in front of them, either physically or online. Synchronous learning, oh, since wala na yung prefix na so ito yung sabay. Synchronous learning are learning activities that are done in real time with the faculty, either online or face-to-face. Synchronous learning is not just the ones that happen inside the classroom. It can also happen with you like this. This is almost synchronous because this is real time. I'm doing this live session. It's already 10:15, and I'm sure it's also 10:15 in your watches, for those in Philippine time and or Hong Kong or Singapore, wherever you are. So this is synchronous learning. What's happening now is synchronous learning. And distance learning. What is distance learning? Distance learning is literally you're far from your students. The teacher is physically far from your students. It's a combination of online synchronous and asynchronous learning methods. So these are the terms that you will start using once we start academic year 2020-2021. And these are the words that you will be using also when you start talking and planning with your teachers. So these words have to be, how do you call that, in your vocabulary now. No, blended learning, distance learning, synchronous, asynchronous. When you hear the word asynchronous, you already should know what you're talking about. Okay, so at the end of this seminar, this is what I want you to gain, no? This mastery of these words. Because distance learning, there's no fixed distance learning structure, and it's really your formula. How are you going to mix the synchronous and asynchronous learning activities? No, it depends. So let's get to know how to mix all of these things. But before that, now this distance learning has some guiding principles. Not specifically distance learning in emergency situations. No? One, I'm sure you have already heard this before. Maslow before you bloom. I was trying to research who said this first, and I think the first instance that this phrase was used but was from Leipzig in 2009. So when we say Maslow before you bloom, meaning we have to first address the basic needs, of our students or even ourselves. And the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm sure everyone is familiar with that. No? The basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, etc., etc. And you have to first make sure that they're all well. And what I did before we started, I tried to Maslow before you bloom. I asked you what your situation is, your anxiety level, because I want to make sure that I'll be able to address that before we start with the lecture. No? Something that you have to do. Kamustahan muna. No? Maslow before you bloom. And second, guiding principles. So these are guiding principles. So these are basically the things that should come to our minds when we decide what activities we're going to administer to our students during an online learning session or distance learning or remote learning. These are all words that you can interchange nowadays. No? Remote learning, distance learning, mixed mode, blended learning. Second, guiding principle is that classroom learning is not the same as distance learning. No? Classroom learning is still the most ideal situation, most ideal environment for someone to learn. Ideal. It doesn't mean that outside the classroom you cannot learn. Ideal because the mood is there, no? The mood of learning is there. You have a teacher who's an authority in front of the class or walking around the class. Students are seated in tables and chairs in a structured seating arrangement. And you have their decorations inside the classroom, reminders about being disciplined and the value of learning, the value of education inside a classroom. And that's just very ideal. At home, what do you see? You have the TV, you have Netflix, you have K-drama, you have everything that can distract you. Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So it's not the same. It's also not conducive. You're not surrounded by students who are also learning. And the third guiding principle, individual home situations vary. Do not ever forget that individual home situations vary. It's not the same for everyone. For others, they may have an ideal setup, no? Study setup. Some houses, some homes have a study area. And that's great. But most homes don't have their own study area. Most of our children, Their study area is inside their bedroom. Imagine if you have to choose to sit at your desk or to sleep on the bed. And these are the things, these are reality, no? And these are temptations that our students and we also experience when we are at home. And I'm sure you guys also are having a difficult time working from home and teaching from home too, no? Because we want to watch our crash landing on you. O nga, meron ng bago ngayon, di ba, yung The King, si Lee Min Ho. Gwapo-gwapo niya ngayon doon. Anyway, sorry naman. Mahilig din tayo sa K-drama. So let's start. So what are the repercussions, no? The implications of these guiding principles? Knowing that we have to Maslow before we bloom. We cannot sanction our students for not submitting on the deadline. Deadlines are considered just mere suggestions, and students should feel that. Our students should not feel that when we give a date for the deadline, the student should be able to submit right there. No, it cannot be that. So we have to be more compassionate, so to speak, because we cannot judge our students what's happening at home. We don't know what's happening there, what we are experiencing here. If we are, for example, we are contented with this quarantine because we are the introverted type. So it's this being at home in quarantine is something that we really love, no? That is ideal for us. But for the students, for other teachers, it's not the same. No, this is limiting to them. Some students might not even be able to submit at all, and it's all right because we are in an emergency situation. Now, for example, your school locks down in school year 2020-2021 because of one COVID positive student. We cannot demand that the student submits. And even for me, even if our administrators, our bosses would demand, you need the grade, you have to ask your student to answer the assessment online. Kailangan mo mapuno yung grading sheet na yan. We cannot still force our students to answer out of compassion. Not just because we have a deadline to fulfill. No? And in our school, we are encouraged to fill up, of course, our grading sheets, but for those who really cannot answer, they are given the time that when the ECQ is lifted to be able to go to school and answer those assessments, those misassessments. So these are the adjustments. We have to be flexible because we have to Maslow before we bloom. No? And expect not to get 100% submission and participation rate from students. You cannot expect 100% attendance on your live streaming event, no? Like now, I cannot demand like the whole population of the Philippines should be able to come and watch this live session because not everyone has great internet, no, to be able to stream this event. And then let's go to the next guiding principle, that the classroom learning is not equivalent to distance learning. So what are the repercussions? One, we cannot require and demand the same rigor and discipline from the students on the same level as we would inside a classroom. So the students will be distracted when we are at home, and we cannot demand that. If they drop out of our live session, our synchronous lecture online, and they drop out of the meeting, we cannot judge. No, we don't know. Baka tinawag yan ng nanay. No, Berto, maghugas ka na ng pinggan. So that's one thing that we have to start understanding. Topics and requirements should be halved because in the classroom the students can do 8 subjects a day, 1 hour after another, one class after another. They could do that because that's the structure inside formal setting. But here at home, we have to have it, if not even half, even less than half, no? Some are more easily distracted from serious work at home than in school. I remember, I don't know if you would read your students' comments or posts on Facebook or Twitter, but I read one, and the student really tried her best to finish all her requirements. She went already at all the corners of her house, worked on all the types of tables that they have at home just to be able to have that kind of seriousness and focus in working and moving around the house just to look for a signal to be able to send the requirement to his or her professor. no? So these are the things that really happen when they're at home. Students may remember more their personal problems at home because of lack of friends' physical presence. Imagine you're stuck at home. And we have to understand that some of our students have also, well, family problems. And imagine you're stuck with your problem at home and with you or with your family. And this is not something that's not common, maybe that may be rare, but there are students who are like this. And I read this Twitter post, no, about this. A student was giving or sharing her situation at home. So we have to understand these things and we have to reach out to these students. Once we identify these students who are having a difficult time, we need to reach out to them. Maybe the learning that those kinds of students need at that moment is not algebra, it's not trigonometry, it's not calculus, but our concern, our care, our compassion, our empathy. So these are the values that we have to imbibe to our students first. Again, going back, no, to that Maslow before we bloom. You have to um, share, no, make sure that our students are felt that they are that we can empathize with them. And the third guiding principle: individual situations at home vary, and knowing that it's different for everyone. No? Students rather are given extra house chores at home to help with daily demands of staying home. Imagine nandun ka buong araw. Siyempre, nadudumihan yung buong bahay. Mas maraming pinggan na hinuhugasan kasi kumakain ka na 3 times a day. So, mas marami ding house chores na ginagawa yung bata. When before may tagalinis sila ng bahay, but now wala, no, kailangan ngayon inaayos na yung kama pagkagising. Individual situations at home vary. Asynchronous activities should outweigh synchronous ones. Mahirap tong live session lagi sa mga estudyante. Kasi imagine kung nagla-live session ka every day, no? Kung 5 times a week yung lesson mo. For example, English, 4 times a week. So you have to, 4 days doing all of these live sessions, face-to-face, you're only giving the student lecture information overload. You have to balance it. The asynchronous activities should outweigh synchronous ones. And these synchronous activities also require more bandwidth than asynchronous activities. Activities should be easy enough that may be done by the child alone or only require little adult supervision. One complaint that we have from our parents in school was that she has 3 children and all in grade school, and she's only one. The mom is only one, and she has to help each of her child. And for example, each child had 4 outputs for that week. Imagine the trouble and the effort that mom will have to do. 4 times 3, 12 outputs for the week. So we have to ensure that we have to start adjusting the kind of assessments and requirements that we require from our students. Make sure that it's possible. I asked my high school classmates and then how they're dealing with their children's requirements from school. I think Assumption Makati, CSA, and other schools, I think, are still on their school year 2019-2020 is still ongoing because they started school August. So the school year is still running. And one of my high school classmates asked told me that she doesn't bother much about the her grade 4 child because the grade 4 child could already do the things on her own. So those are the kinds of activities that we want, that a grade 4 child can already start doing the assessments or the work that is demanded of her or him on his or her own, and that my high school classmate only has to help the younger one, not the one in grade 1. So those are the things, no, that require little adult supervision. So what are the adjustments that we need to do with this distance learning? No? What students could do 8 hours a day inside a classroom should be just cut in half or less than half when it's done at home. No? Asynchronous activities should outnumber synchronous ones. Later, I'll give you the different types of activities under synchronous and asynchronous. Limit synchronous to just 1 hour at most. Pre-recorded videos should be limited to 15 to 20 minutes. So what does this entail? So it entails that our videos, for example, we do flipped learning. For those who are familiar with flipped learning, we record ourselves teaching the lesson. We have to limit that video to just 15 minutes because there's no interaction with our students. Because inside the class, in a 40-minute period or 50 minutes or 1 hour period, we keep on teaching, but we allow our students once in a while to interrupt us to ask a question. But here in a pre-recorded video, they cannot interrupt us and ask us a question. But they could rewind and fast forward us. Feedback is important for validation. So part of blended learning concept is that we have to give feedback because students are learning also independently on their own. So after a lecture, they also do their own research about the topic. So we need to validate what they're learning at home, whether they understood the concept correctly or incorrectly. So feedback is important. And how do we test that? Of course, we need assessments. And one very important thing about this online learning is to coordinate with other level teachers. It's very difficult. For example, you have a student doing 6 major outputs in a week, and that's difficult. So we have to coordinate with the other teachers and coordinate also with when we're going to do our synchronous lectures online, and what kind, so that the teachers know, oh, they already have this major activity in science. Hindi na ako makikidrama pa dyan. So dadalian ko na lang yung assessment ko. Babawi na lang ako sa next week, for example. No? Ayan. So here, what you can do, for example, para dun sa mga high-tech na dyan, is to create a monitoring plan for the grade level distance learning activities. So this is like just my sample schedule. So this is a 5-hour schedule at home per day. For example, you schedule, this is a Google Docs file, and you can share this file with the other teachers on the same level. Share nyo sa Socsci teacher nyo, sa AP teacher, sa MAPE, sa math teacher, English, science. Share nyo yung document sa lahat para nakikita nyo lahat kung ano yung mga activities na. No? Hindi kayo magsasabay, syempre dapat mag-schedule ng lecture nyo, for example. So yung mga due dates nyo, yung mga formative assessments nyo, so at least naka-coordinate kayo dito sa isang schedule. Kung nakashare yan, edi nakikita nyo na agad na napopopulate na, nalalaman na yung schedule ng bata. No? And then you share that to the students para yung students may schedule din sila for the week. No? So this one is important. You have to coordinate. Hindi pwedeng hindi mag-coordinate with other teachers. Whether using a Google Docs file na nakakollaborate with ibang teachers or chat group, whatever, basta mag-coordinate. Ang importante mag-coordinate. So how do we do lectures online? Ito na yung mga synchronous and asynchronous activities natin. So for online synchronous tools for lectures, you can use Google Hangouts, yung mga non-G Suite na users, yung mga gmail@gmail.com na accounts. You can use Google Hangouts or Google Hangouts Meet for those who have the at dlsu.edu.ph na mga domains, na email addresses, meaning for sure may G Suite account kayo. So you can also use that, no? Yung mga at deped.gov, may mga G Suite accounts kayo. So you can use Google Hangouts Meet. Yon, unlimited number of participants yon. And then of course you can use the Zoom account. Right now may promo yung Zoom during this lockdown period na you can have unlimited number of participants. Kasi dati for free users, limited yung number ng participants sa Zoom. Then, of course, we have Microsoft Teams. Again, yung mga subscribers ng Microsoft 365, no? Meron yan. Yung ibang schools, merong mga ganyang benefits. So you could also explore that. Microsoft Teams, medyo bago siya. It's a new player into this whole thing. Nauna na si Google and then si Zoom, and then you have Google Classroom, and then now you have Microsoft Teams. So just a reminder for Zoom, kasi nga, I'm sure nabalitaan nyo na ang dami-daming security issues ng Zoom, no? So these are things that you should be able to set when you're using Zoom. As as a tool for synchronous learning with your students. Now, don't worry, I'll share this handout. I'll give you the link later in the last few slides para ma-download nyo. So you don't have to copy this or screenshot this para makuha itong mga settings na to. Online asynchronous tools for lectures. So meaning ito yung mga pre-recorded na mga videos. So you can upload it in YouTube, so that the student can have the option to download it offline and then watch you later. Kasi mahirap yung live sometimes kasi yung bandwidth hindi kaya yung live. So baka mas appropriate sa students yung dina-download muna yung video mo bago kanila panoorin yung lecture video. So, or upload it in some cloud drive where they can download your video. So again, when you do these pre-recorded videos, kailangan mga limited to 15 to 20 minutes each. So that's one topic, one video. No, that's better. It's better that way. And you have also, kung ayaw mo gumawa ng video mong sarili, meron naman tayong mga existing na tutorial videos. I'm sure you're all familiar with Khan Academy. Ang maganda sa Khan Academy, naka-organize din yung mga videos nila per subject. So they have one math, science, they also have in arts and humanities, no? And then, for example, if you click on math, under math, nakakategorize pa rin siya according to the topics, algebra, what is this, pre-calculus, trigonometry, etc., etc. I think they also have basic math, for grade 1, pre-K. So they have all of these levels of math. And for example, if you choose algebra, and then you choose the topic algebraic expressions, I mean, what's great about this Khan Academy is that, yung mga 15 to 20 minute videos, one video per topic. And then at the end of the series of the videos under algebraic expression, there's already a test that a student can answer. No? May test na. And that test, may immediate feedback. The student gets the score after that test. So you can use Khan Academy. Just make sure that you view the videos first para alam nyo na tama o pareho kayo ng process. Kasi may mga ganun na iba yung process na tinuturo sa video dun sa mga Khan Academy, dun sa process na alam mo na gusto mong ituro sa mga bata. So you have to choose the videos. Don't just choose a topic and then not view the video and then share it to your students. Make sure you view it yourselves before sharing. You can also use Show Me. This is not popular, among us, not as popular as Khan Academy. You have also Show Me. Ito naman parang interactive whiteboard. So you will see a whiteboard and then may mga drawings and doodles explaining also the different topics. For example, in English, or there's prisms. So you could also go to showme.com. It's an app. I think you can also access the videos here online. So what about the formative assessments that can be done online? And other than the paper and pen assessments, like meron tayong PDF ng ating typical na mga quizzes and then we just send the PDF to our students. So other than that, kasi mahirap yun pag pen and paper, sino mag-check? Pag nasa bahay ka, wala kang exchange papers. Walang corrected by dyan. Walang mag-check na katabi. At sino din na magbibigay ng answer key. Diba? So yung mga online na formative assessments, very effective in giving immediate feedback to the students. And as simple as getting the score. One, Google Forms. Yung Google Forms, sobrang raw. You have to make your own assessment dito. So kung may existing ka na quiz, you can convert this into a Google form. And ang setting lang na kailangan natin gawin when you use Google Form is go to settings, click on the quizzes tab, and then turn on make this a quiz. And once that's on, when you start making your question, for example, here on the second box in the slide presentation, sa baba, may nakalagay na add answer feedback. And going to the third image, you can already add the feedback for all responses. So you can explain already the answer in the Google form. So the students can already know, bakit ako mali? Kasi ganito pala dapat. No? Kasi ito yung nabasa ko dun sa feedback, dun sa answer ko. Yun ang maganda sa Google Form, yung answer feedback. And you also have yung mga pre-existing na mga assessments that are already available online. Quizzes.com. So this is game-like. Almost parang Kahoot. I think alam natin lahat ng Kahoot, no? Everybody loves Kahoot. My students love Kahoot. Actually, even Kahoot is better than quizzes. But since Kahoot is more fun when you're physically around, no, inside the classroom, nagkakahoot kayo, masaya yon. Pero yung quizzes, good enough for home activities, no, individual activities at home. So you can, may mga ranking din dyan. You can also make multiple choice quizzes, check boxes, fill in the blank exams, polls, or even open-ended questions here. And again, you don't have to start from scratch. There are already existing quizzes. Just make sure that you also check the questions there before sharing it to your students. Another one is Quizlet. Quizlet. Ito, what I love about Quizlet is you're making flashcards for your students. So after your lecture, this is perfect, no? After your lecture, if you want the students to master certain terms, definitions, concepts, you make flashcards for them. And then all you have to do is make the flashcards. So the students, ganun talaga, no? So for example, kita mo 1.5, convert that to a decimal point. When the students flip the card, the answer is at the back. So same with the flashcards with Quizlet, no? And what's amazing is that may mga automatic na nag-generate na rin yung test niya. No? It's a right test, or it can be a spelling test, or it can be a test. So again, makukuha na rin ng students yung tamang sagot dyan sa Quizlet. Nag-review na sila, nakapag-exam pa. So this is what I like about Quizlet. And this one is also fun, wiser.me. Mas marami lang siyang, what I like about wiser.me is ang daming tasks na pwedeng gawin. Ang meron dito sa Wiser that is not available in the other online assessment tools is the matching type. So this one, for example, yung screenshot ko dito, this one is a matching type. You drag the orange dots to the second column kung saan siya nagmamatch, no? You can do matching type, you can do sorting, no? You can categorize, put words under the table where it belongs. So mas interactive siya. So there's drawing even here in wiser.me. Yung mga premium accounts lang, yung sa reflection at saka yung mga word search puzzle. Yan. But the other, for free accounts, these are available to us. Yung wiser.me. Again, i-share ko naman yung handout na to later. So you don't have to worry about not remembering all of these suggestions. So how do we manage all of these online resources? I think we're all familiar naman with learning management systems. So we need a way to give the links to our students, give the PDFs to our students. Hindi pwede na dapat iwasan na rin natin yung paggamit ng Facebook para magkausapin yung mga students o magpadala ng mga files. Kasi meron naman tayong existing na mga learning management systems that are free, where we can be more professional in sending and more organized in sending the resources to our students. Yung mga links natin na kailangan nilang sagutan, yung mga online formative assessments, mga PDF, mga videos natin. You can use Google Classroom or you can use Edmodo. Edmodo, yung format ng Edmodo might be most familiar to us kasi para siyang Facebook. Ganun lang din siya. But it's focused on education. May mga built-in quizzes din dyan sa Edmodo. No? And then you have also Canvas. Canvas is more, more rich. Baka I would like to encourage Canvas for high school and senior high school for using Canvas. Mas complex kasi yan eh. You could put in your syllabus there, etc., etc. Although I like the simplicity of Google Classroom. In fact, I'll show you one. So this is a demo or a dummy Google Classroom that I made. So you could also, if you click on classwork, kita mo na dyan, yung topics mo. Per topic, rhetoric, for example. I include already the handout there. So the download na lang yung bata dyan sa Google Classroom. Or look at my post on ancient literature. May handout ako, may formative assessment in PDF form, tas meron na rin akong summative assessment. No, nandiyan na rin siya. Click lang ng click yung bata. And then, isa-submit na niya yung PDF also through Google Classroom. Hindi na kailangan pang i-flood yung email mo tas hirap na hirap kang hanapin, asan yung email ni Roberto? Hindi ko makita dito sa email ko. So pagka gumamit ka ng LMS, ng Learning Management System, everything will be compiled, no, properly in just one app. Next, so ayun na, last words na kasi I want to keep this lecture only actually up to 10:50 so that I have 10 minutes maybe to answer your questions. Paki-comment na lang po. Maybe you could ilagay niyo yung caps, in all caps, yung word na question para alam ko that you're asking a question sa akin and then I'll try to respond to your questions. No? Question, all caps. Thank you. So, last words natin. Or maybe not my last words, baka marami pa ako masabi later. So, remember, no, the 3 guiding principles. Ano ulit yung mga guiding principles natin? 1, correct, Maslow before Bloom. No, importante yan. Kamustahan muna natin, no? Kamustahin muna natin yung ating mga estudyante. Let's share or make our students feel that we are concerned for them, no? Yun na nakalimutan natin kasi when we abruptly ended the school year, all we wanted to do was finish the school year also, no? And finish all our requirements, no? But this time, we have to remember, kamustahin muna natin sila, no? And the second guiding principle is correct. Yung classroom learning is not the same as distance learning. So, iba ang sitwasyon. So, talagang kailangan mag-adjust tayo pag sa mga requirements natin sa mga bata sa bahay. And hindi lang siya basta-basta homework. We're also demanding our students to actually learn when they're at home. And the third guiding principle is individual situations vary at home. So we have to be considerate with deadlines, no? Not sanctioning our students for not being able to submit. If we have to extend natin yung deadline, no? And then second, there's no definite structure for distance learning. So, yung mga suggestions ko dito, these are all just, ganun lang talaga silang lahat, suggestions, no? And yung guiding principles lang natin na 3 ang ating kailangan tandaan. Kasi depende yan sa ating interpretasyon. Depende rin yan sa maiisip din or paplanuhin ng ating mga administrator sa ating mga kanya-kanyang mga school. No? But these 3 guiding principles should guide us on how we're going to structure our online learning with our students. And very important, coordinate. No? Importante itong pag-coordinate ng mga lessons natin sa mga or requirements natin sa mga bata. And aim for authentic learning. Let's use this situation, tong pandemic na to as our sentences, as our lessons, our science lessons, our math lessons, no? So that they see the relevance of this still online learning. Na hindi pa rin, the feeling nila, hindi pa rin sila parang formal lesson, pero at the same time, they're still in it in the situation, that they are being relevant also, no? Let's aim for that. So these are my references. Of course, kailangan nating magpasalamat sa mga taong ito. I'd like to shout out to Jim Toscano, one of my kabanggaan, kashera ng mga ideas dito about EdTech, and the other Apple Distinguished Educators also around the Philippines. No? So thank you to all of you. And these are my references. You can check them out. You can also do your own research. Of course, yung mga images na ginagamit natin din sa mga dito, no, sa mga presentations natin, kailangan din nating i-attribute yun. I suggest that you go to flaticon.com. They have amazing icons, and all you need to do is just put their icons by, and then yung gumawa ng icon from flaticon.com. They're all free, they're all cute, they're all usable, no? And so again, let's review, no? So how do we get our digital certificate? Make sure that you share today's live learning session and include your key takeaway with Learn as One PH as your caption. Take a screenshot of your post and send the screenshot to Vibal Group through PM so that we can give you your certificate. So here, ayan, I think may nagtanong na dito, where can we get the copy of the handout? Sorry, sunod-sunod na yung comments. Ayan, soft copy of this topic. Ito na. Ayan. Pakicopy na lang si Bitly or you can use your phone to capture yung QR code. Ano pa ba yung mga questions dito? Sige. I think yan na yung start. May yung question one. Yan, what can we do to those students who do not have internet access? Is there any adjustments that we can do if online learning is needed? Thanks. Very important question. Sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, kailangan naka-ready na siguro habang naka-lockdown tayo, ang kailangan na natin gawin. Yung mga modules natin that we can already share to our students, no, bago pumasok ng school. Yung mga PDF, i-print na natin. So para dun sa mga walang internet sa bahay, meron tayong printed material na maibibigay sa kanila. If not, yung mga textbooks talaga. Ang kailangan lang natin ibigay sa kanila yung order ng lessons na pwede nilang gawin sa bahay. Wala tayong magagawa. Again, trust na lang din yan ang kailangan natin gawin na ginagawa ng bata yung activity na sinuggest natin bago mag-quarantine, no, sa mga batang ito. Otherwise, we cannot force, no? Kung hindi natin maibigay yung mga lessons na kailangan niyang aralin during the lockdown, hindi natin naibigay, we cannot force it. No? Hindi naman tayo pwedeng lumabas, pumunta sa bahay niya at ibigay yung mga handouts sa kanya. So we really just have to exercise that flexibility and that understanding sa mga estudyanteng may mga ganito. No? So I hope I answered your question. Not all students have computers and access to the internet. Aside from the use of technology, what are other forms that we can use to conduct, post ko nga yung tanong, ayan, to conduct distance learning. Follow up, how can we address those students who do not have access to technology? So same do sa question na nauna na, no? So kailangan talaga nakaprepare na rin yung mga PDF natin, yung mga worksheets natin, i-print out na yan, ibigay na sa kanila, kunwari, mag-a-announce na magla-lockdown na bukas. And nandito pa tayo, kasama pa natin yung student today. Mangangarag na ako magbigay ng mga handout siguro doon sa mga batang yon. And then again, hindi na natin ma-force, no? Kung hindi natin maibigay yung mga handouts na yan, yung mga lessons na kailangan nilang aralin during the lockdown, we just have to trust that they'll be able to learn, no, on their own. Other questions. Ayan, yung soft copy, ito na. Question, hanap pa tayo ng ibang question. Mukhang wala ng questions. Ayan, may question pang isa. Show natin. So what is the best way to address the problem for students regarding internet connection when using LMS? Wala tayong magagawa dito, no? Kung meron silang internet access, meron silang internet access, no? Or bago wala talaga. Hindi na natin to ma-address, ano? So kung meron silang internet access, download nila agad lahat ng mga PDF, tapos pag nawala, at least they can still answer yung mga PDF, no? So kailangan ganon. Balance yung mga online formative assessments natin with those mga PDF that they can do offline. Other questions? Ito question, magandang tanong to. Pinag-uusapan pa rin natin to. Do we need to grade the output of our students? No? Importante to. In fact, meron ako mga friends who are professors in the universities and they have been discussing, no, kung pass or fail lang ang ibibigay or bibigyan talaga ng numeric grade yung mga outputs na ginawa ng mga bata at home. I suppose it will depend on your school administrator. No? Hindi ko pwedeng, parang ayoko muna magbigay ng definite na response. It depends again kasi parang individual situations at home vary. School situations also vary. So it really depends on what type of school, the profile of your students, whether you could be able to give a numeric value to the outputs of your students or to just mention pass or fail. Pero personally, I might be leaning more towards the pass or fail. No? But very difficult lang kasi. With the kind of world that we live in na nire-require lagi yung standards, numerical standards, no, standardized tests, baka this is too radical, no, to consider. But I think with the if in these situations, we might be able to start becoming more open to this possibility na of pass or fail. Hanap pa tayo ng ibang question. Ito, magandang tanong. Ano po ang best app for distance learning and madali lang ba mag-install? Ang pinakamadali yung Edmodo kasi Edmodo parang Facebook. So pag ginamit mo yung Edmodo, para ka lang din nagfe-Facebook. Hindi masyadong iba yung interface. So baka for first-time user ng mga LMS, I would recommend Edmodo. And then after magsawa or ma-frustrate ka na sa format ng Edmodo kasi medyo magulo sa Edmodo eh. Walang structure doon, para talagang post. Mahirap maghanap ng mga post mo ng previews, hindi naka-organize per topic. You may want to go and start discovering Google Classroom. Kasi sa Google Classroom, you can organize your handouts per topic. Mas organized siya. Hanap pa tayo ng ibang tanong. Okay, mukhang, let's see. Naglo-load. Ayan, may nakita ako magandang tanong. What are the possible weaknesses of distance learning aside from internet connectivity? Well, for example, meron na tayong internet, yung distance learning. Like what I said, for basic ed, distance learning is still not ideal. Ang learning ng mga bata dyan, mas babagal. Now, we cannot demand na yung number of topics natin in a school year, hindi na natin siya matatapos sa distance learning mode or mixed mode learning. Kailangan nating magbawas ng topic. If inside the classroom, we can finish discussing 3 topics in a week, pag nasa bahay tayo, kailangan 1 topic a week na lang tayo kasi mahirap talaga sa batang mag-aral. So yun yung, if that's even a weakness, no? If that's even a weakness na mas hindi natin mako-cover lahat ng topics or mako-cover lahat ng competencies that is required of us. And we hope that, DepEd will also have these adjustments in the curriculum so that we could address our students' concerns better without demanding so much. May question dito. Let's see. Question, dapat ba sa orientation masabi na ito sa mga magulang at bata ang online and sites na gagamitin ng guro at ng school? Actually, naisip ko rin to. Hindi lang dapat sa orientation, baka enrollment pa lang. I think your registrar's office should already start informing the parents na it will be possible to go online learning pagka may mga ganitong emergency situations, so that the parents will also be prepared to, improve their internet access at home. Kasi investment na to, this already part of this new normal, no? So enrollment pa lang dapat si parent nasasabihan na, para nakakapag-budget na rin si parent, no? Para ma-improve din niya yung stability ng internet sa bahay. And yung mga, tong learning management system, better na yung school administrator ninyo mag-decide anong learning management system ang gagamitin ng school. Para isa lang din na app ang gagamitin. At hindi malilito si parent. Ay, sa English, Google Classroom. Sa araling panlipunan, Edmodo. Medyo nakakalito. So, kailangan din mag-decide na rin ng school kung anong learning management system ang gagamitin. Yan. Yung mga sites, maiiba-iba naman yan eh. Kasi iba-iba yung resources natin sa internet, no? Hanap pa tayo. May mga question pa dyan. Let's see. Ito, magandang tanong to. How about with preschoolers? How do we do distance learning with them? Ito mukhang impossible tong distance learning sa preschool. Napapag-usapan na rin natin yan. Kasi ang pedagogy sa preschool is play, di ba? And hindi tayo makakapag-play pagka nasa distance learning tayo. So, since preschool pa rin naman siya, it's technically not yet a formal schooling. Parents might have to decide, no? Kasi nga of this uncertainty na baka mamaya online learning tayo, no? And to rethink of enrolling their children in nursery, for example. Kasi playtime pa lang din sila. So, yan ang mahirap sa preschool. Ang magagawa lang sa, may mga apps din naman na learning the alphabets, learning the numbers, basic math, may mga apps that you can download, no? But still, at saka hindi pa naman graded yun sa mga preschool. So, what you can do for preschool is yun, recommend na lang the apps. Give the topics to the parents so that may masundan lang si parent or si guardian na mga activities na pwedeng ipagawa dun sa bata. Pero otherwise, mukhang mahirap yung independent learning. Kasi yung sa blended learning, very important kasi yung concept ng independent learning. Yeah. Or distance learning. I think yun din yung tanong dun sa isa, no, yung sa primary level to adopt the distance learning since we are handling all subject areas. I'm just thinking the preparations that we need to do since we are required to finish all the learning competencies. Like what I said earlier, Miss Kaluweng, na yung mga learning competencies natin, mababawasan talaga yan. Hindi natin kayang gawin yan. Actually, mas advantageous pa nga kayo sa mga primary school na mga self-contained classes na isang teacher lang. You could already plot a schedule per week and then send that schedule to the students, no, with, again, keep in mind na sana little supervision from parents, no. I like what I said earlier, meron akong high school classmate na may grade 4 na anak na kaya namang gawin yung activity on her own. So that's also possible. So let's just make sure na doable itong mga activities natin sa mga bata. And what else? Yung iba may mga insights, no? Nakakatuwa naman yung mga insights ninyo. It's already 11 o'clock. Maybe I'll answer one last question na lang. Ito. May isang tanong. How do we deal with non-readers? Siguro ibang question, sagutin ko na lang as a reply, no? Kung makita ko. How can the distance learning be applied to children with special needs? Are there any apps that can help too? None that I am familiar with regard to special needs. Kasi in teaching children with special needs, important kasi yung physical presence ng teacher. Hindi mo lang siya pwedeng iwan lang sa app on his or her own eh. So, sila din yung hindi siguro magbe-benefit from distance learning. Kasi they need to be closely be monitored all the time. Physically also. So, yan ang isang mga challenges with distance learning. And this distance learning is still very new to us in the Philippines. Now, we're all still kaming mga edtech na mga teachers, mga education technologists, Apple Distinguished Educators, Apple Teachers, whatever, Microsoft Certified Educators, etc., Google Educators. Lahat kami, we're still trying to develop all of these guidelines for distance learning. So hopefully, before school year 2020-21 starts, meron na rin kaming marirecommend, no? For all of these concerns. So these questions that you're asking, wala akong sagot pa sa iba. No, but hopefully we will compile all of these questions and be able to address it. No? So I'll be taking note of all of these questions. I think ito na ang ating mag-end na tayo ng ating session. No? So again, thank you, no, for coming and attending. For those who want to send me a more, you want to discuss with me these things, I'll show you. This is my email address. You can also look for me on social media. My username in all of my social media accounts is Teacher Twish. I'm also active on Twitter. I am not active in Instagram. I have not been active on Facebook, but if you message me, Messenger, yeah, you could also send me a message. We can talk. No, it doesn't have to be a question. Maybe gusto nyo lang talaga mag-usap, pag-usapan itong situation na to, educational system, ako yung pwede nyo akong kausapin. No? As long as I have the time and hindi ako nanonood ng K-drama. Just kidding. No? I'll discuss with you. No? If you have questions, just send me an email or follow me in social media accounts. Okay? So, and then sa mga ibang mga nagtanong doon sa comment, I'll try my best to I'll try my best to respond to them, reply to them. So again, thank you for coming. I hope you learned something from this very short session. And again, I'd like to thank Vibal for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. And at least we have something to start with, no? Itong 1 month or 2 months na break before school year starts, iniisip na dapat natin to kasi ito na yung new normal nga na sinasabi nila, no? So, again, if you have questions, just message me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Do not forget yung requirements ng Vibal so that Vibal can give you your certificate, yung ating mga steps, no? Dun sa ating pagkuha ng certificate. Okay? I hope you have a great day today. Have a blessed week. It's still Easter, so I could still greet all of you happy Easter. And let's keep that joy and peace, no, that only comes from Christ. And in this very difficult situation that we are in, no, let's live each day by the day. Well, let's not worry too much about the future yet, but we have to prepare ourselves for it. Okay? God bless you, everyone. Thank you.